Hello everyone, welcome. Now, recently I did a flip through of a John Blockley book called Country Landscapes in Watercolour, and I mentioned that it would be fun to make a watercolour palette using the colours that John Blockley used throughout the book. They weren't listed in the book, but I think I've managed to pull it all together, and that's what I'm going to be looking at today. So this was the book, and there is no, this is my usual color palette part of this book, so I have had to kind of read through it because there is some writing on each of the pictures that describes the colors that he used and the technique that he used. So that's what I've had to read through, and I have come up with, and it did luckily fit into 12 colors. 12 colors that are the ones that are mentioned in the book that he uses. So I've got this little palette that is a Van Gogh palette, and I can't remember, well, it just said that, oh, the Van Gogh Museum set. Now, I'd already taken out a few colours and put them in another palette, so some of these are the Van Gogh colours, some of them are handmade paints, some of them are core. They're a real mixture, trying to pull together the right colours for this particular palette, but I think I've done it. The only one that was a bit tricky was the fact that I did not have a cadmium light red, so I've had to use a pyrrole light red instead, but the rest I did manage to find. So I've done my little swatch card here, but I'm going to swatch them out properly, do some mixes, and then there were a few other things that he uses throughout the book that I will mention, and I'm even going to have a go at doing a really rough little picture. So for those of you that enjoy Anne Blockley, John Blockley, her father, I hope this one will be of interest. So let's get started by swatching these colours out properly. And the first colour, the yellow that he uses, is Aureolin, and I'm hoping I pronounced that correctly. What I want to try and do is water them down a bit more at the bottom. Yeah. So that is the only yellow. He uses raw sienna, or just sienna. So I have got this sienna that is actually a handmade sienna. He seems to use the raw sienna quite a bit. We've got burnt sienna. Need a bit more water. Let's just we go, so that we lighten it up at the bottom. We've got burnt umber. So there are a lot of really earthy colours, but then that kind of fits with the kind of landscapes, farmlands, farmhouses, landscapes, that kind of thing that he was doing. So then we've got the pyrrole red light, which is instead of the cadmium red light. It's quite fun having these little stamps that you can use to swatch your paints with. It makes it a bit more fun, I think. Might need to take a bit of that out. Let's just bottom there. Then we've got our cadmium red. To be honest, I don't really use reds much in my work, so it's going to be interesting. But I think a lot of the time he used them more in mixes rather than on their own. And I don't really use Hooker's Green that much. Hooker's Green he doesn't use on its own. He mixes it with yellows and blues. So he's not using it as a colour on its own. It's not a very natural green, really. Then we've got 3 blues coming up. So we've got cobalt blue, which is the one he uses the most, as opposed to ultramarine blue, which I think he only mentioned in one place in the book. I can go with him on that because I'm a cobalt blue girl. And we've got ultramarine. I'll put a bit more in there. There we go. And then another colour that I don't really use, phthalo blue. This is phthalo blue green shade. Like the Hooker's Green, it's really a mixing colour. And it's very staining, so you need to be quite careful with the phthalos. Can I get that lighter at the bottom? A little bit, I think. Payne's Grey. So this is not like my usual palette at all. And then finally yellow ochre. So I will dry these and we will have a look at those colours. Okay, so let's bring those up. And then if you're interested in making yourself the same palette, you've got a record there of the colours that he uses throughout the book. So next, what I want to do, so I'm going to have to move these a bit. I'm going to try and get both pages in. Can we do that? Right, maybe go up a tad. There we go. Yeah, that's the end of the book. Right, so I want to do some mixing. Let's start with using the Aureolin. Might need a bigger palette to do all these mixes on. Or a different palette anyway. Okay. So let's take some of the Aureolin. And first of all, let's mix that with, well, let's mix it with the Payne's Grey to start off with. Okay. And you can see that we've got a green. A much more natural green than the green. Keep wiping this out, then I can probably do all my mixing on it. Okay, let's write this up. So this was Aureolin plus Payne's Grey. Now let's add the Aureolin. Actually, let's get another lot out and then we're not. Let's add it to our, ooh, we've got heaps too much there. Our cobalt blue. Ooh. So because we're doing landscapes and we've already got quite a few browns on the palette, I'm looking to see what greens I can make. Now that is pretty. So that's Aureolin plus cobalt, or cob, we'll call it cob. Now let's see what we get when we use ultramarine blue instead. And I'm thinking we'll get a similar, oh, a similar colour. It's gone too blue, look. Okay, we don't get a similar colour, but that's probably because I've put a lot of Aureolin in here. And oh, and just a little bit of ultramarine. Right, let's see if I can just remove that. Good. Now let's have a go at doing the aureolin with the phthalo blue green shade. Get another couple up. So phthalo blue, and you only need a tiny bit because it is really rather strong. Wow. That is pretty. So that is plus P blue, phthalo blue. And now let's take our, we're going to need more aureolin. Hooker's green. Nice. Plus Hooker's green. And what I also want to do is take Hooker's green and add Payne's grey. So Hooker's green plus P grey. Look at all those greens. That one is much more of a mossy olivey green. The aureolin and the cobalt almost go to a teal colour. Now if I do more, let's just keep wiping a few of these away. If I do the balance slightly differently with the ultramarine, so we have ultramarine and a bit less aureolin. So it's the other way round. So this is ultramarine plus aureolin, different to aureolin and ultramarine with just a touch of ultramarine. You can see how you can keep changing your greens beautifully. Right. Okay. Next I want to do our burnt sienna. In fact, I'm going to need 3 lots. I've dribbled in that one, so let's put it in that one. And I want to see what the burnt sienna does with all of the blues. So this is with the cobalt blue. I wonder what happens if we make it more cobalt blue than burnt sienna. Yes, okay. And then we get this grey, more of a grey colour. So this was burnt sienna plus cobalt, and this was more cobalt plus burnt sienna. Right, now let's try with our ultramarine. So we'll put a little bit of ultramarine in there. And as you would expect, there's not a great deal of difference. Let's just make it more on the ultramarine side. There we are. And then we get a beautiful grey. So this was sienna plus ultramarine, and this was the other way round. Burnt sienna. So you can see that we're getting some really natural, well, we've already got sienna, burnt umber and yellow ochre in this set. But we're, you know, the colours here that you can get. Right, let's try mixing with the phthalo blue then. Whoa. Well, that wasn't what I expected. What about that? That is plus P blue. Right, let me just get my stamp out. Because I'm intrigued now. Let's just add a few more at the bottom here. Okay. Because what I want to do now is, so that was a mixture of both. What happens if we go more? Actually, the phthalo blue is probably strongest, isn't it? Let's go more with our burnt sienna. That's just kind of making another brown. Not as interesting as that. So this was less of the phthalo blue. Okay. Let's now try our hooker's green with some yellow ochre. That's pretty. Peach green plus yellow ochre. I mean, you can keep going here because, you know, you could mix the hooker's green with some raw sienna. Try and make sure I get plenty on my brush. Not enough. This is a handmade paint, so sometimes they're not as creamy. Okay. But of course, some of these will be granulating, others won't be. I can already see some nice granulation going on in some of those colours. So that was hooker's green plus raw sienna. And what else shall we do? Let's do, just out of interest, the hooker's green. And let's add some of the pyro red light to it and see what colour we get. Oh, so now we get this brown that's got a red tinge to it. So okay, as I said, you can keep playing. These are all, you know, showing us that this is a really earthy, natural kind of palette with the colours that we've got on here. But you have also got the opportunity for a pop of colour with the reds and the blues, and even the aureolin. So the other thing that he uses in places in the book is black waterproof ink. So and he does mention Indian ink. So this is Dr. P.H. Martin's Black Star Waterproof India ink. So just so as I've got a proper note of everything that he uses. He uses white gouache. Well, I'm going to be using my bleed proof white instead. So that's going to be my white gouache equivalent. And he does use masking fluid, so I don't know how well this is going to do. I don't use masking fluid that often, but in the true oh, here we go, it is coming out. I think I would have to squeeze some onto something else. Oh goodness me. Let's try and get that back in. This is not good when you've got rubbish eyesight like me. Oh gosh, does anyone else struggle like this? Please tell me it's not just me. Oh, there we go. I've got it. There we are. And also water. So, let's take a brush again. And let's just spread that out a bit. Right. So, these are our materials that we have to play with. I'm going to dry all this off, bring the colours and everything up, and then maybe have a wee play at doing something. Maybe a house with some rocky wall in front of it or something like that. Okay, let me just fold that over and bring these up. And I think you can see, I mean, the ultramarine and burnt sienna has got some lovely granulation, and you can see the separation of the colours a little bit. The burnt sienna and ultramarine, in other words, you know, there's one more of one than the other on those. And then the cobalt blue and the burnt sienna, even the ultramarine and the aureolin and the Payne's grey. I mean, these are just rather, I mean, sienna and phthalo blue. Look at that. That is stunning. But, you know, a whole mixture of colours that are really quite of the natural landscape type colours, basically. And, you know, together with those original 12 colours, I think, yeah, brilliant, brilliant palette. So, is that completely dry? I'm going to pause and let that dry because it's not quite dry. And then I'm going to turn the page and have a bit of a play with these colours with a little sketchy picture. Okay, so I'm now ready to have a little play, and I'm using the book on page 37 as a rough guide. The finished article that John Blockley did is this. Mine will not be like that, but I just want to have a play with the paints and kind of see what I can do, really. Got an extra mixing palette there ready. So yeah, let's kind of see what happens. I'm just using it as a bit of a reference, but yeah, let's not copy him completely. So I want to get something going on at the back here. Bigger brush. Let's start with our sky, and I'm going to go with the cobalt blue, but very much kind of watered down in the back here. And this is just going to be like I would be doing in a sketchbook. So yeah, that doesn't seem to be showing up that much, does it? Let's go a bit darker. Don't want to go too dark. So we've got something going on there. I'm going to add a little bit of Payne's grey to it. And get some kind of almost like mountainy bits in the background there. And then I'm going to take some of the sienna. I am not looking at what colours John Blockley used, just so that you all know that is not going to be the right colour. Right, okay. And then I want to get kind of a strip of land going on. And we don't want it to be too perfect. And then I want to go back to my very light blue, which is really got to go all the way to here. And so that's going to come across there. And we'll have other things going on. Now, should I take that to the top? I don't know whether if I put my light on, that's going to be any better. Maybe. Okay, let's leave that light on for the minute. Right. Now I'm going to avoid my houses and this because I want to get all the kind of greenery and things going on. So what was this? Burnt umber. Add a little bit of the green and start getting in some greenery. And you know, this is what I'm calling an undercoat. So, and we want to get maybe a bit further down here with our sienna. You know, the fact that there's these rocks going on. So I want to get some of that in over here. Right. And where's my green? Because I kind of want my green going up around the back of there. Yep. Right, okay, let's try and let's just try dropping some colour in here and start building it up. I'm getting a shine, aren't I? Okay, if I use something to tilt it up a bit, then that helps, I think. And I want to go a bit darker. No, Payne's Grey. Where are you, Payne's Grey? Can't see my paints at the minute. Right, okay. That's going to do it. Right. I think that is building up my greenery. Now what I want to do is, okay, I'm just going to take a rag and I want to pull out some kind of rock shapes. So I'm just, and this is a technique that he would use in the book. So we will try. Okay. So if I bring that up, hopefully you can see where I've taken out some of the paint. I'm gonna dry that because then I can add more colour to it. Right, I'm going to get these houses in next, and then do more with my background. So let's get this little roof in, and maybe that one can be this colour, a bit lighter. So I'm just using the Payne's Grey at the moment, and that's really quite dark, so we'll nab a bit of that for this one as well. Right, this roof is much more with the browns. And it doesn't matter if the other stuff runs in a bit. I'm not too bothered. So we've mostly got, I suppose we could maybe add a wee bit of Payne's Grey to that. Too much. There we go. Just so that we're getting a slightly different colour. And maybe we can even do the side of that one. And that one. So that we've got these little houses going on, which is quite nice, quite like that. But maybe I could take that colour and liven this up a bit. Well, not liven it up. Yeah, just go over it a bit more so that it stands out as a bit of a horizon. Right, let's see what we can do down here. So I'm going to mix up a bit more of the sienna with the Payne's grey, and get something else going on in these rocks here. Where's my cloth gun? Don't want such hard edges. We do want some other kind of rocky shapes going on. Let's do a bit of kind of splatting, I think. We'll add a bit more Payne's grey to that. Is that looks a bit more like rocks, which we like. Now then, let's mix up Hooker's green and ochre, because I feel like we need some brighter green at the front here. Otherwise it's all quite muted. Right, also what I want to do is dry this so that I can get some more detail on these houses. Right, that's next. Okay, and we are back. Right, now then. Okay, so we've got these kind of stripes of of colour. It looks like he's used pen there as well. Okay, but we need to get the white in at the back here. Bleed-proof white. So I think what we will do is we will a bit of white, showing the white of the, or maybe a bit grey, but you know, that's okay. And then there's kind of like some white stripes going on these roofs. Like that. And well, we need a bit more colour there first. Right, let's go a bit darker on this roof. And get some of these lines in, and yeah. And is it at the bottom as well? No, not so much. But I'm gonna need something going on there. So I'll just make up my own. Because you can. Right, and then we need some darker bits going on. And actually the darker bits really need to be so I need to break this up a bit as well. Okay, now let's go to our bleed-proof white. And we can get some then we get some of that detail in. And let's just smudge that up a bit as well, so it doesn't look too perfect. Okay. Right. Now, obviously, you know, this is just a very quick, a very quick study, but we have got some kind of grasses coming up and around out of these rocks, and even up around the building. And we can maybe have some taller ones over here. And then I really need to darken that up. And because I mean I haven't read it completely, but it really does look like there is some ink going on. So I'm going to get some more definition into these rocks so that they look a bit more like rocks, which they now do. And I'm also going to do a bit around this. On these chimneys. So I'm just doing this really lightly, just to sort of give something else that's going on, and I need to darken up a bit over here, I think. Sort of on the edge here. And then I want to show that we've got this rough edge going on. Maybe let's just, I don't want that as a hard edge. Maybe we can get a bit more of the green in together with, yeah, just, you know, keep adding a bit of interest, I suppose. Well, I mean, I could keep going and keep going, couldn't I? But I think we're up to about an hour now, and that is probably enough. I mean, you can see that I haven't, you know, where is it? There we go. I haven't copied it exactly, but I've taken inspiration from, and there we go. And I think the colours do all work really nicely, don't they? I'm actually really quite impressed. So yeah, bit of fun today, making up the John Blockley palette and having a little play. So hope that was something that you found interesting. Thanks so much for supporting me. I really do want to build my channel a lot more this year. So yeah, if you can, please do subscribe and hit the like button, the hype button, and please, you know, do make some comments. It all helps. And yeah, then, you know, it's the amount of the video that you watch that really makes a difference too. Let me know what it is that you would like to see as well. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.